yesterday, I told you one of the most followed conservative voices in America, Candace Owens, announced a quiet family vacation in Russia. She was going to go see the cathedrals. She was saying it was a little faith tourism with her husband. Nothing wrong with that. And a handful of researchers did something that I said yesterday was almost embarrassingly simple. They just read the program. She was listed in as a speaker at the Kremlin's flagship forum. One of Vladimir Putin's headlines, a few names down from Vladimir Putin, is the Russian philosopher Alexander Dugin. Now, on that same roster is Candace Owens, and she said she was going to meet Alexander Dugin and maybe talk to him, yada, yada. Well, this is really bad, really bad. The thread the researchers pulled didn't lead to her, however. It led back to him, the man they call Putin's brain, who wrote back in 1997, the way to break America was to feed divisions and flatter its urge to retreat from the world. Then he also casts Russia as the holy restrainer in a final war against the satanic West, and that satanic West and the Jewish Antichrist that will come from apparently America or siding with us is going to be fought by Russia, the right Christians that have teamed up with Islam. Okay. And I told you how this idea written in Moscow can end up in your earbuds in Ohio listening to a podcast, and it's called narrative laundering. You strip the fingerprints off the message and you slip it in the mouth of somebody you already trust so it doesn't sound like it's foreign, it sounds like home, and voila, okay? The payload was a single engineered question. Does your faith come first or your country? Which I told you yesterday is a false choice. Built to set the two great loves of a Christian patriot at war with each other. And the most uncomfortable part was where it gets in. Not through an enemy in a foreign uniform, but through allies waving our own flag and quoting our own scriptures. It was built to fool people exactly like you and me.
Hello, guys. David Vos here. Oh, buddy, beautiful day. And it's just got through raining a little bit. Rained yesterday a little bit. Clouds in the sky. It's going to be a little windy as well. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Well, I guess old Glenn Beckybeck is having a terrible day. And what he's trying to tell you guys here, let me interpret. We can't have the Soviet Union trying to tell us that we're corrupt. Well, yeah, we are corrupt, okay? We've got half of our population in the street on drugs, flipping around, satanic marks all over their bodies, sex in the street, people literally with their hair and teeth falling out, they're dying. And I don't mean from street drugs. I mean from the pharmaceutical companies. We literally have the children going to school, learning propaganda about how they should change their sexuality. And I don't mean into a different sex. Actually, I mean a dog. They're going to change themselves into a different species. Okay, now, of course, that's not, ideal. But the Russians, oh, wait a minute. Hold on. I think the Russians probably have the exact same debauchery going on. I wonder why.
A generation of Russian youth is being destroyed by methadone, a cheap synthetic drug. It's dangerously addictive. I've been following the methadone chain. Taking meth or meow can make you feel euphoric, sensitive to touch, and sexually aroused, but can also cause severe addiction that leads to paranoia and serious health effects. In Russia, I have been investigating drugs for the last half-decade. I have watched the explosion in teenage narco-blogs, social media accounts where they chronicle their drug life. More and more teenagers are on methadone. This is Valerie from Moscow. She has been an active drug user for the past several years. This is Vika from Yekaterinburg. At 14, she was already injecting. By 16, she was dealing. And here is Oля. Her blog immediately stood out. From the beginning, I could see she had no illusions about her dire situation. Oля is from the working-class suburbs of Moscow. She started using at 15. 2 years later, she was in rehab.
Волна пошла мефедрона. Прям, тусовки, клубы, подростки.
Oh my goodness. Well, it looks like Russia has the exact same drugs, same crimes, same problems as the United States. And here's the irony. This Glenn Beck, who is a Mormon, is a hypocrite because he's saying that Russia's really bad, but he almost wept the other day when he went and visited Donald Trump. He said he's such a remarkable, extraordinary human being. He started crying. He literally worships the man and is completely 100% behind everything he's doing. And here's the thing. He says, or is trying to make you believe, and I can't possibly believe that he's not aware. It's like, he's sincere, Dave. It's just his beliefs. Well, they all got sincere beliefs. But anybody, a blind man, could see that this evil pervades the entire world. And it isn't just grassroots. Some crazy natural thing that just happens in the world. Why, if it were, you certainly couldn't blame Putin. But in that case, you couldn't blame Trump or anybody. But you see, I'm blaming, yes, the devil. And who is the devil? It's government. It's organizations like the Masons and the Mormons that are the exact same thing. It's just that it's a different department of the same organization. And Brigham Young was installed by Albert Pike of the Masons to head up the Western District of the Masonic organization in the United States. And that's why the Mormons run the FBI and the CIA and are running for presidents and over the military bases and all that they do. And the politics and, the Harry Reids that are leaders of the Senate. And you got to be a blind, evil hypocrite if you cannot get the rafter out of your eye while you're beating and condemning your neighbor and claiming to be a Christian. So here's the situation in Glenn Beck's political sphere, in his own territory, under his own government and their rules. And, he's so proud of his government. And I don't mean the Constitution. I believe in that. But somebody's taken over the Constitution since 1776. And I guarantee it's the Masons and those above the Masons and the Mormons. And Glenn Beck is part of the problem. He's a hypocrite. And this is what's going on in his neck of the woods.
Salt Lake City. Set between the Wasatch Mountains and the Great Salt Lake, this is Utah's capital.
Salt Lake Police, if you're in there, we're gonna find you!
Okay, don't take your pants off.
His mom's incarcerated and he's just like, I'm waiting for my mom. But mom's not gonna show up.
The most common thing is fentanyl powder and meth. Come here, sir. Stop right there.
Armed fugitives, homicide suspects, rape suspects, shooting suspects, kind of the apex criminal.
Headquarters of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, a city known for faith, family, and the kind of order most places lost a long time ago. But beneath the skyline and steeples, there's another side of the city most people never see. Fentanyl, addiction, and violence that doesn't fit the postcard.
Salt Lake City has fallen to 58th on this year's U.S. News and World Report's Best Places to Live list. This is all based on home value, job market, and quality of life. Salt Lake also got a lower education score and a higher crime rating.
As you just heard, officers found guns and drugs, the results of a month-long investigation into a nightclub that's been the center of crime this summer.
It's been a heated summer for gun violence in one area of downtown Salt Lake City.
We are just a stone's throw away from Main Street.
Not in back alleys or dark neighborhoods, but gunfire in the entertainment district, close to West Temple.
Well, I'll be darned. I guess Salt Lake City is just going down the tubes for some different reason than the communist states. Or could it be that the entire world is run by Satan, including the industry of the media that Glenn Beck is a part of, and maybe even the government, Trump? And maybe you're just lying to us, Beck. Maybe you're an actor. Maybe you're disingenuous. Maybe you're a sick individual pretending that somehow your religion's a Christian religion, but the Orthodox Eastern Church over there in Russia, they're not Christian. And, you know, all this, what, capitalism? It's so much better than communism, right? Or maybe it's a system of greed and evil. And maybe your CIA and the FBI and your presidents that you're trying to run and your Donald Trump is evil. Is it perhaps true what David Vos said a few days ago about how the Bolshevik Revolution was a revolution of these Zionists, same Zionists that were, well, at that point they were just called Bolsheviks, right? But 2% of Russia was controlling the 98%. You can look that up. That's an actual figure. And the 2% that was reigning in every position from president, whatever, you know, the Fuhrer, or whatever position is the highest, Putin, right? All the way down to the postman and the city councilman. Now, these were all of one particular persuasion, Ashkenazi. Yeah, that's right. Now, as soon as they got done murdering millions of Christians and Jews, they, of course, being financed by somebody, and I don't know who, and I ain't going to say because, you know, I don't want to bias this conversation, but how about all of you just imagine in your head who's financing the whole thing? Probably, and I'm just guessing on this one, right? We're just spitballing this one. But probably the same people that own the banks that created their headquarters in Switzerland. And it was the same thing that Hiester was railing against in Mein Kampf. However, they were actually financing Hitler, as well as Stalin, Harry Truman, Franklin D. Roosevelt, and Winston Churchill. And I'm not even joking. Okay. All of these countries had to have a great deal of weapons. We had to have machinery being built in our factories and bombs. And all of this costs a lot of money. And all of them got their financing from the exact same place. So, you see, what and who might, pray tell, be the person that was doing all of this? Well, remember that little guy named Rothschild who had all these kids and he put them into power all over the world. They all took over the banks and then created the Federal Reserve in each country. And yeah, probably that guy. Well, who was that Rothschild guy? Let me think. Oh yeah, he was the one who teamed up with Jacob Frank way back in 1700, 1750. Oh, come on, Dave, that couldn't possibly be. Oh, come on, you're a conspiracy theorist. There's no plot in this world to dumb down the children and make us all satanic and flip around in the streets on some kind of sorcery that the government's going to promote called pharmaceutical, which is the Greek sorcery. And they're not seriously trying to tell us that way back in 1750, somebody come up with some plot for this Zionism that somehow, oh yeah, I bet they just planned on creating Zionism in this Israel nation and all of these agencies like the CIA and the KGB. They didn't plan on taking over Russia and then take over America through Hollywood and the banks and all of this. This is crazy. They wouldn't dare try to make little boys think they're little girls and get everybody on drugs and commit suicide in the streets and make Satanism blaring in all the children's ears in the rock and roll music and get them to throw up the devil sign and put tattoos of devils all over their body and mutilate themselves and then go into the streets and get paid by another Jew called Soros to burn down the cities. And then, oh yeah, we'll have another Jew run for president and claim he's going to make America great again. But he'll start World War III and literally collapse the entire world. That's ridiculous, Dave. That's ridiculous. But you know what is probably really sticking in my craw, Glenn, more than anything else, is that you are a prominent Mormon, Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And you literally follow a man named Brigham Young. Now, I ain't talking about Joseph Smith, who I believe was a true prophet, but you follow Brigham Young, who burned down the entire city and home of Joseph Smith's wife, hated her, murdered all of the original leaders of the Church of Jesus Christ, which is what it was called at that time, till you call it the Mormons or the Latter-day Saints or some crazy thing, and ripped out all the verses in the scriptures that say you shouldn't be a polygamist and started telling everybody to have as many wives as possible. And then you created an army, went out to Utah and founded this huge Gothic temple and declared that you were king. And now you got control of all the politics in Idaho and Utah and Nevada and Arizona and New Mexico and parts of California and Montana, and most of the entire West is controlled by your organization, including the FBI and parts of the CIA and all of the underground goings-ons and bases, military bases, and the supposed, I don't know, alien thing in Roswell that you conspired to create. And you got the gall to tell me that the Russians are bad people and that we all should just don't believe in the Russians because they're a conspiracy, but we need to trust who? Who are we going to trust? Trump, who's collapsing the world right now? And by the way, if you guys control the whole western part of the United States, why don't you just secede from the Union and well, oh, that's right, because Brigham Young was a political despot trying to create his own kingdom of Satan on earth himself. And you little vile, oh, you were on Fox News. So was Tucker Carlson, who was in the CIA. And of course, it's literally the Mormons who control the FBI and the CIA, and so probably are in cahoots with Tucker Carlson, who's also pretending to be a Christian, Catholic, like Jacob Frank. And you're going to sit there and look me in the eyes with your little set, your television set, your reality TV show with your little white hair and black glasses. And oh, you look so wonderful the other day as you were walking up to the White House. I mean, you look almost like Winston Churchill. You and Trump are starting to look very similar with your little hunchback and your overweight, dark robe kind of suit jacket. And the only thing was missing was your cigar, but you look pretty darn good there, old professor. So, it might just be me, but I really like to know what's going on. And I see a lot of similarities around the world, as though maybe what's going on in one part of the world is exactly the same thing going on in another part of the world. Like, for instance, you know how you can tell who was the world power before Babylon became the world power? Well, you can tell it was Egypt. You know how? Because that's where they got the pyramids. And there happens to be pyramids in China, Mesoamerica, North America. I just saw one that they just discovered. Well, I don't know how long ago they discovered it. They're in Louisiana. We got them in Missouri. We got them all over the world, basically, in Alabama. These huge. I mean, the one that I just saw that was in Louisiana is supposed to have been built like 1000 or 2000 BC. Now, they probably don't know really when it was built, but here's the deal. All these cultures, take a look at the Native Americans, and they got their headdress with the feathers and all this. This is exactly from Egypt. It's an Egyptian tradition to put the breastplate on and dance and do all of these sacred rituals. And even the creation stories and all of it goes back where? To the Great Pyramid. I guarantee it. Oh, yeah. And we just found out yesterday. Well, we found out. I mean, we've been talking about this on this channel for a while now. But we've determined and proven that Solomon, whose glory was so amazing that the Queen of Sheba came to see his glory. I mean, all the kings of the world brought gold and frankincense and tribute to Solomon to see his glory. But yet, you want us to believe that Solomon lived in an area over there in Palestine where we can't even find his temple. But yeah, we've proven it was Karnak in Egypt. Did you know that Karnak is the largest metropolis in all the world? It's got the biggest temples, the largest metropolitan area in ancient times. And that was the world power. That was where Solomon reigned. He was the king of the world. I guarantee it. King David was the king of the world and his son Solomon. And that's why there are pyramids in America. That's why they call it Canoptic land or Enoch's land. I guarantee it. And all over the world, they knew and heard the glory of Solomon. It was the kingdom of the I Am. And the bounds of Solomon's kingdom was the entire world here in America as well. Just a side note for you. So, because you know that when you see all the same kinds of things going on around the world, for instance, today, if you go all over the world, I don't care if you go to China, Russia, Africa, no matter, America, what are you going to see? Big, square, tall towers made out of glass. Oh, so that means there's a one world government already, and they all make the same buildings and have the same crimes. Well, I guess, you got to be real smart to figure that one out, Lynn, and I'm sorry that you aren't smart enough to figure that out. But, yeah, old Jacob Frank. Now, Jacob Frank decided he was going to do exactly what is being done in the world today. Isn't that something? I wonder if maybe he succeeded. Old Jacob Frank from the 18th century, he's a Polish Jewish religious leader, and he founded what they call Frankism. Jacob Frank. He was supposedly the missing link between the Illuminati, David Weishaupt, and the Rothschilds, with this satanic perversion of Judaism, they called it. Jacob Frank taught that there was only redemption through sin, which then argues that since the world was corrupt, the only way to reach deity was by violating the traditional morals that everybody else believes in, which led to accusations from the mainstream Jewish leaders at that time, and then later conspiracy theorists, supposedly conspiracy theorists, that his followers were practicing Satanism. That's actually where modern Satanism came from Judaism, from Jacob Frank. So he explicitly then broke with the Orthodox Judaism and led his followers to this Messianic movement. He then eventually converted to Catholicism, and that was, I guess, a fake conversion because he wanted to allow his satanic sect to infiltrate the European power structures. And this is what him and his followers have been doing. So he's connected to the Rothschilds and the Illuminati in this way. The Rothschild family were actually secretly Frankists, or, following the Adam Weishaupt Illuminati, but secretly this turns into this Jewish plot to redeem the world through as much evil as they can produce. And so it was this radical anti-religious idea. All these groups merged to create a global cabal, and it's a satanic Judaism. Not long after that, we got Anton LaVey that created Satanism. LaVey is a Levite or a Jew. Then they called it Sabbatean Frankism, and it was to manipulate the world. So it was part of this Zionism. Zionism wasn't some genuine nationalistic movement, but it was a Jacob Frankist plot, an Illuminati plot, to force a false return to Israel to fulfill their own dark prophecies. Jacob Frank claimed to be the reincarnation of Sabbatai Zevi, who was another false messiah from the Jews from the 1600s, and he taught that traditional Jewish law should be overturned. They don't really care, these people that are running the world. They're not really interested in Judaism either, right? Although they, I think this is overlooked because I think people don't realize they actually read the Torah and found out that it was Satanism. That most people don't realize it, but Yahweh really is Satan, and the genocide upon the nations and the goyim and the rape and the pillage and slavery that you find in the Old Testament is really what they're trying to do. They really are faithful Yahwists. So Jacob Frank was active in Europe, Poland, Germany, Austria, and he was a rebel, a radical. He took over the Illuminati and then was financed by the Rothschilds. Now think about this. Jacob Frank led thousands of his followers to publicly convert to Catholicism about the end of 1700s, around just before 1800. Now think about this. This was a satanic plot, a Jewish satanic plot to convert to Catholicism. Now, have you noticed this push lately? Tucker Carlson, whose father, Dick Carlson, was head of the propaganda in the CIA, a CIA agent, head of propaganda, PBS, and all of this. On our children, yeah. these guys were devout Catholics. All of a sudden, Tucker Carlson's become a Catholic. You got Russell Brand, who's suddenly or recently become some devout Catholic. And by the way, he was going with Katy Perry, or where they were married. Turns out Katy Perry is with Justin Trudeau now. And he's a Catholic too. Really? Come on now. You don't want to take over an entire country like Canada with some martial law and evil, wicked Satanism up your sleeve and claim to be a Catholic. Really? I don't think so. Or, you're a Catholic and you marry some harlot that rides the beast on stage at halftime. I know. But, who else? All these people like Megyn Kelly and Candace Owens and all these people are the number one podcasters are all turning to Catholicism. Jordan Peterson, all of a sudden now he's a Catholic, right? Very devout Christian. So he does this mass apostasy. They all turn to Catholicism. And it's a satanic plot. I guarantee it. But, let's give Beck a chance to explain himself. Let's hear what he got to say, at least. Anyway, here's Beck.
Luckily, I have been watching this guy, Alexander Dugin, for years. I've been warning you for years. He is he is on center stage now in much of the right and in Christendom. So I want to show you today, I want to take it from a different angle. I want to show you the same thing, but from a different angle. Because people in this audience already diagnosed this disease once before. You just didn't know you were being trained to recognize it. So let me help you recognize what you're facing by showing you what you've already recognized.
But wait a minute, Beck, who's trained you? Who's trained you? What kind of a trained monkey are you? That you literally believe the rhetoric you're spewing. Sorry, I had to ask. Anyway, back to Beck.
Do you remember when we started talking about Barack Obama in 2007 and 8, and we found Jeremiah Wright, and we heard crazy things coming from the pulpit with Jeremiah Wright? We did our homework. What is that? That's liberation theology, okay? It swept through the church in the last century, but you, hopefully, were not fooled. You saw it for what it was, Marxism in a cassock. The cross traded for the hammer and sickle. Salvation redefined as revolution. Remember, it takes the gospel from a personal salvation goal to a collective salvation goal. God doesn't save us collectively. He saves us individually.
What? Is that like Brigham Young's salvation and the kingdom of deity on earth through politics and polygamy and forcing and the Danites and all of this? Building your cathedrals? It's a little bit like that, ain't it? What's wrong with you, Glenn?
And when you get liberation theology, the kingdom of God collapses into a 5-year plan, and the gospel is reduced to a means and a political ends. Okay?
Well, actually, it's taken you about 150 years. And you're almost there, Glenn. You've almost got your utopia. You and old Albert Pike and Jacob Frank just about got it. What, 150 years? That's not bad.
You knew that a faith bent into a weapon for the class struggle had already stopped being faith, and it had to be stopped because it's not faith.
Oh, buddy, preach it, Glenn. Preach it, man. You're right. It's not faith, and what you're doing isn't faith. But, and I shouldn't be so hard on you, Glenn. Maybe you're just a little retarded, or, you can't help it. Maybe your brain just didn't develop and you weren't able to understand these things, right? But your church is the epitome. Your government, your Trump, your round them up, murder them all. is exactly the epitome of what you're talking about. You know, and it frightens me that you could be that stupid. So I don't think you're really that stupid. I think maybe you're just a big old liar, you know?
Even the Vatican said so. Cardinal Ratzinger himself warned that you can't borrow, categories of Marx and still be preaching Christ. You can't.
Okay, Glenn, now you're just playing with this. You're just teasing us now, right? Old Ratzinger, the old rat, he was Jewish. Ratzinger's Jewish. He was supposedly just barely saved out of the ovens in the old World War II. And, it's true that you can't borrow categories of Brigham Young and still be a Christian.
So you were right. You got liberation theology. Hold on to that clarity for one more minute because you're going to need it. Because the same offer has just come back around. Now, new and improved. And this time it's not coming from the left. It's coming from the right, and it's coming for you. And it's not arriving with a red star. It arrives under a golden dome. It doesn't say seize the means of production. It says restore the Christian civilization. It doesn't quote Marx. It quotes our church fathers. And it is aimed with great precision at the one group who would never fall for the left-wing version. At the faithful, the traditional, the patriotic Christian who has spent his whole life.
But Glenn, who are you preaching to? The patriotic Christians? And wait a minute, hold on. Patriotic? Does that mean people who are willing to join the army and go and murder all the Chinese and the Iranians and the people of Hezbollah and Lebanon and the Houthis and Gaza and all these people? Just massacre them all? Every man, woman, and child. Deity will tell us who the true Catholics are. I guarantee it.
Resisting exactly this kind of maneuver from the other direction. So here's what you have to see, because you of all people are equipped to see it. It's exactly the same heresy. Liberation theology politicized the faith and dragged it left. This new thing politicizes the faith and drags it to the right. But the sin underneath is identical. Taking the kingdom that is not of this world and nailing it to a kingdom that is of this world.
Like the kingdom of Brigham Young. I think we got it, Glenn. We got it. Yeah.
Remember, this new philosophy is you got to get in with the Russians. You got to get in with a Christian prince, because only this kingdom of the world will save the next kingdom. You know that's garbage. And the moment you turn the internal into a tool of the temporal, you've handed someone else the handle. And in this case, the someone holding that handle sits in Moscow.
Yeah, he does sit in Moscow. Mr. Putin, Medved, and, the Alexander, or whatever his name is there in the Ukraine, and Donald Trump, and Brigham Young, and Jacob Frank. They're all holding the handle. The handle on the basket going to hell. They're riding a toboggan down the hill to hell. And you're right in the front seat, Glenn, telling the whole world your lies.
The liberation theologians thought they were using Marxism. Marxism was using them. And I'm telling you that the man selling the czar to the rescue of Christendom are running exactly the same play.
I think it's exactly the same play that you're running. I think you're all on the same page and you're all running the same play, the same scheme. And you're all really good actors, but it wasn't quite good enough for me. I saw right through the plot. I didn't even watch the ending. I already know what's going to happen. It says in the Bible, in Revelation chapter 21, verse 8 or 9 or so, says that the cowardly and the unbelieving and the idolaters and the liars and the sorcerers, those pharmaceutical guys, They'll have their part in the lake which burns with fire, which is symbolic, of course. Fire and brimstone, which is the second death. So, I don't know, but maybe you ought to not be lying, Glenn.
And the faithful are meant to be the instrument, not the author.
Okay, that's enough of your ignorance. Well, I think I'm going to go ahead and close it there and bid you guys adieu. Try and get this uploaded. Hope you guys have a wonderful evening. You know the Lord loves you all. His grace and His peace will be with you all. And we'll see you tomorrow. Have a good one, guys.